So, for those who don't know me, I am Dr. Carla Engelbrecht. I have spent 25 years creating all sorts of interactive and education and entertainment experiences for Netflix, Sesame Street, PBS Kids, Highlights for Children, all sorts of places. So, largely in the kids space, but with some notable exceptions moving out into the adult space and sort of the broader wellness space. Today, we are talking about Google Flow and particularly how to personalize the tools, which in order to do that means just for a little bit of a roadmap, we're going to do a quick overview of Google Flow, sort of the standard tools, and then we will start to move into the tools, and then we'll move into the personalization of the tools. If you've seen me present before, you know I usually have slides. I do not have slides today because we're going to spend the bulk of our time in the tool. You're welcome to try to play along if you would like to. And I will send out afterwards, I'll send out a document with some of the prompts and things that I have. There's the Russian phrase, the first pancake is always a lumpy one. Yes, pronounced. Oh, I love this. Pronounced Pervli Blinkomum. Huh. Okay. So, and there now you also know the quality of my Russian pronunciation is weak. So, yeah, first pancake presentation where we're figuring it out. So we're going to spend time in Google Flow. I'm going to do demos, which means it's going to build at times. Becky, I see you just a second. It's going to build some things in real time. And so that might mean we have some downtime to answer questions, to talk a little bit. We'll kind of see. But I've also done some pre-building of things so that we can look at examples of things. Flow is, this is the link for it. I'll put it into chat. So it's part of Labs, Google Labs. So if you go to labs.google, and then there's a whole bunch of tools, I would highly recommend just playing in there because you can get all sorts of interesting ideas of what is possible with generative AI. But in particular, we're going to be using the Flow tool, which is for animation and image creation. One of the things I like to start all talks with is the Melvin Kranzberg quote from the First Laws of Technology, which is that technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. And that's really to say all of these tools are going to magnify whatever our intent is. And I think it's especially important to acknowledge and talk about that in the world of AI, where right now we've got a lot of slop going on, but we've also got a lot of good things going on. And so I really come at this as trying to think about how can we use these tools for good. That is not to minimize. There's a lot of different ethical and moral considerations that go into play. And especially as we start working in animation, it can get very tricky fast. And you will see some of the animations we generate and play with look way too close to Pixar, to other studios and whatnot. And so part of how I teach this over time is actually how to find your style and move away from those things. But because we're generating with tools, there's going to probably be some things that show up that may feel a little too close. We're doing this for demo purposes and for learning, but just to sort of acknowledge our goal is to move towards the good side of things and how to do this with originality and use AI to augment our experience. I very much believe humans are always responsible for what we are creating. So I am going to share Google Flow. It is here. Oh, wait, I forgot to push the sound button. Dear Zoom, I have feedback. Please always click the share sound button. Nope, and then I hit the wrong one. Third time's the charm. There we go. Okay, perfect. So you should see a nice little park scene. Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. I will try to monitor chat, by the way, but feel free to kind of chime in if there are things that you need further clarification on. So this is Google Flow. In this case, I've started to generate some things. So you will see already some of these images. This is sort of your main panel of things. Let's grab a prompt. If you saw the workshop I did yesterday, you know, I really like working in sort of very short story segments, so little short arcs. So yesterday we made one about a spider and a robot vacuum, which was kind of cute. Today we're going to play with one about a goldfish and a cat. So if I'm coming into Flow, there are a lot of different ways that I can create content. The most sort of basic way, so in over here, we've got, this is our prompt box down here. And then we've got this selection box, which allows us to select if we're creating image or video, our sizing, and what models we're working with. So if I went to video and I wanted to just do text to video prompt, right? So I've got video, I'm going to do 2. OmniFlash is one of the choices of models. You can see to do 2 videos, it costs 24 credits. I'm going to use VO Fast for the moment, which uses 20 credits. Or actually, let's try Light. Let's see what we get with Light, which uses 10 credits to create 2. So you start to get a sense of your token budget. I'm just going to put in a prompt. I already pre-designed the prompt. The previous workshop talked a lot about what goes into a prompt. But I've got the prompt and I can press generate. And that is now going to be what's called text to video. So that's going to give us a video based solely on the text that we created. Another way to do this is if there's a specific starting frame that I want, I can go back to image, put in the same prompt. There's some things in here that don't matter for audio, or the camera movement. The rest of this should probably be fine for right now. And I can generate an image. Incidentally, side note, when you're working in these tools, I tend to have to multitask a lot. Otherwise, you sit here twiddling your thumbs a lot. So I often have a couple of different things going at the same time. I don't know if in aggregate I save time than if I had just done one thing at a time, but I feel better that I'm not just sitting around sitting still. So you will see me jump around and be doing multiple things at once today. So that while that's generating, I'm going to let that finish generating the image. So here we've got a starting image that works for our prompt. And so I can take that image, take animate. I'm now in what's called frames or image to video or starting frame to video. So it's got this is the starting frame. And you can see I'm on the frame setting here versus the ingredients. I can put in the same animation prompt and it's going to generate animation, but now use that as the starting frame. Whereas before, now in this case, it's pretty close, right, between these starting frames because the prompt is pretty straightforward, but there may be times you want to start with a really specific angle or a really specific character. And that's where you start to use those starting frames or those ingredients. So from the text to video option, this is what it does. Happy little goldfish in the bowl. A little bit of weirdness with some bubbles, but not too bad. And let's just look at the other one. Much more realistic. I didn't get a lot of the CGI aspects here. It's almost more photorealistic, but both are functional that we could use, right? So that's the text to video. Meanwhile, our starting video, where it gave us the starting frame. Very similar. We've got dust motes flying around. We've got tailfin out of the water, right? So some issues. But again, right now our goal is just to show you how these different pieces work. Then you can go in and you can tune and fix all of these other pieces. But these are the basics of how you build content. Make sense so far? Cool. So this is the most manual method of building your videos, right? So you're literally going in, you're going sort of shot by shot or 4 to 10 second chunk at a time to build the starting reference or the characters and the videos that you want. And then you're going to build all those videos, download them, and edit them. Or you can kind of edit in Google Flow, but it's really terrible. So we're not even going to work with it right now. I can show you toward the end if you want. So that's the manual process. You can start to see where it just adds up to. It's a lot of time, a lot going on. Now there's another way where you can use the agent. So just like if you're talking to Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, right? Flow has built in an agent mode using Gemini. So you would hit this agent button and then you can give it different instructions. Now, in this case, I'm giving it the instructions if I want to create a very short, emotional, nonverbal CGI animated short based on this series of clips. And I'm giving it the 4 moments that I want to see. Fishbowl on the table, a fluffy white cat walking into the room, into the same room, a single bubble rising to the surface of the water. That might get weird. We'll see if it keeps the goldfish in it or it might remove the goldfish. And then the cat resting its chin on the table by the bowl, right? So now I can build all of those 4 frame by frame or video clip by video clip. In the case of agent, I can tell the agent this is what I want it to do. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. So
If
the
you,
agent,
Carla,
yep,
if you do them in 4 separate videos, are you at risk of each video looking like a different, like
yeah. I'm
next
so
time the
glad you
fish is green or something?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So while we're going to keep an eye on the agent to see what it's doing, and while it's doing that, let's work through your use case. So I've built out the other prompts. So for prompt 2, we have the cat in the same room, right? Now we have this starting image. Do we like the starting image or did we like this guy better? You know what? Let's use this one. So there's an option in here when you're on the video. Let me move my pictures of you guys get in the way. So there's an option here. If you mouse over the video, you see this little icon up here. This is going to save the frame out into your workspace. So we now have this frame. This can be our reference image. So if we add this to the prompt, oh shoot, now I have 2 things going at once. You know what? Here, we're going to fix it this way. Let's make another. I do this sometimes. Sometimes Google gets mad at you for doing this, but I have the same folder open so I can do multitasking. I really multitask a lot. The more I talk about this, the more I realize I do that. So we're going to add it to the prompt. I'm going to turn off the agent, add to prompt, and I'm going to go back to images, and I'm going to have it create the starting frame for the second video, which is the cat coming into the room. I'm just going to delete the camera movement stuff. And I'm going to ask it to generate that. Now, in theory, it's going to hold kind of the room. It's going to have to pull back and fill in details of the room, and it's going to give us the cat. So then when we generate the video, we now are using that reference one. For the third one, grab the third prompt, I'm going to again do add to prompt. And I'm going to have it make that starting image. So, okay, now we see what happened here is now the goldfish is on the floor instead of on the table. And well, or it's a very low table, I guess, in this case. So we're going to try this again and we're going to fix some of the language. So let me see, how would we do this? So we're going to keep the style and then we're going to say a wide view of the living room. A wooden table with the gold fish bowl is visible. And then let's see, a small fluffy white kitten is walking across the room. Let's try that. All right. And then meanwhile, we've got our single bubble one with the cat kind of in the background. I'm okay with that. So let me grab this prompt again. We're going to animate this one. So now it's interesting, right? Because we're working on frames 1 and 3 or shots 1 and 3. 2 hasn't settled yet, and we haven't started on 4. There we go. Well, that's better. Is our table round? We don't know. Let's see, what's this one? So let's try, so we can even further edit this. Put the kitten farther away from the table and goldfish. So you can see where this becomes really time consuming. But once you get all of these things lined up, you're in better shape. So while that's going, let's go check on our agent over here and see what it's up to. So remember, I gave it this basic prompt. So it has now built out a storyboard. We have Finley the fish and Yuki the cat in a sunlit study. It's very flowery in its language and description, isn't it? And then it has given us the frames. 4 frames, 5. Okay, so it gave us 5. Why did it give us 5? The fish bowl. Then we have the cat entering. Then we have the bubble. And then we have the cat resting its chin. And then we have them apparently staring at each other, possibly at a sunset. So, okay. So I think that sequence feels good. So we're going to have it, please create the storyboard. So it's going to make the storyboard for us. So meanwhile, there we go. Now we have the cat a little further away from where we were. So let's go ahead and we can animate that. So I'm going to do animate. I'm going to actually move this video model. Let's try Omni. Omni's the newest one. It's supposed to be the best one. It's not always. AI is good that way. You can do the same thing over and over again, and it may or may not work how you expect it to. Okay, so we've got the cat walking up to the bowl. We've lost the table again. But we can kind of forgive that for the moment. I'm not going to try to chase down the table at the moment. And what I'm going to do, just so we can see, so you can briefly see what the editing tool looks like. Where did we start? This was our, you can see this gets really overwhelming to manage. This is why I like the tools, which we'll get to in a minute. So let's just add this to, we're going to make a scene. Oh, that might be a new scene. Let's do a new scene, create scene. I'll show you what this looks like in a second. So I'm adding these videos to the scene. That's not a video. This is a video. Why aren't you letting me? No. There it is. Add to scene. Wait, which one is which? Oh, Google. This is why it gets really complicated. So what I started doing is adding them to, this is their editor that is in there. And this is why I don't like it very much, because all it basically allows you to do is crop things and then move them around in order. But you can start to see how it flows together. Let's see how our storyboard is doing. Okay, I approve. So it made, oh, I just approved the video without looking at it. So here's our storyboard that it's making for us. Okay. Again, we lost the CGI. The sunset thing is very funny to me, but hey. So it's now making a 10-second short with this. The biggest limitation here being this structure only operates in 10 seconds. If we wanted each of these to be longer, we would need to tell it to generate frame 1, pull out frame 1, generate an 8-second clip. So if we were actually going for 30 seconds, so you can start to see where, again, the agent can move some things forward for you, but it's also going to still slow you down in some places. Well, these things are going, you got general gist. I'm not going to take these through to finish at the moment. We'll come back and look at what the agent has got, but you can start to see the different pieces of this, and you can start to see why the flow tools are, the promise of them are great, because what people have been doing is building custom code pipelines that allow you to do a more streamlined version of this. So maybe you generate all your storyboards, you can look at them, and then it's submitting through APIs to show you the videos and the animations. So ultimately, we want a faster and a more smooth flow to go through this. different tools like Gemini now and Flow. Runway has done this. There's even Comfy UI has ones. People are building these built-in tools to be able to build these pipelines. In the case of Google, what's fascinating about it is that they're hooking into their vibe coding tools. So rather than some of these other ones where you're going and you're dealing with nodes and workflows and it's kind of clunky, you can do natural language vibe coding in this case. If you haven't done vibe coding before, this will be an interesting introduction to it because it's it's both super fun and super frustrating depending on your perspective of things. Give it some time. If you still hate it after 2 or 3 weeks, maybe call me and I'll see if I can talk you down, or it may not be the thing for you. Who knows? Um, but first, what happened? So Gemini released or Google released this a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago, maybe now. And I was immediately like, whoa, this is fun. Now, I'm a product builder who builds and I do code. I also love storytelling. So I recognize my brain kind of fell into this a lot faster, but I think it is really worth learning because it can smooth out so many things for us as individuals when you hit a like, oh, I really wish I could do blah. So first, what I want to do is just show you some of the tools that they've already made and provided, and then we're going to modify, and then we'll try building our own one. So when you go into a folder, so we're still in our fish folder right now, but there's this item on the left side toward the bottom that's called tools. And then there's two options there. There's discover and there's my tools. So under discover, these are ones that Google has built that they've provided. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Some of it I'm like, I don't know why I would need this, but it's fun to play with. So one of the ones that I really love playing with is this shot explorer. Because I think you often end up in a situation where you're like, I've got this one angle. I mean, we just ran into it. We've got this one angle of the goldfish bowl, but we actually need different angles of the goldfish bowl or different angles of the living room. So this tool, in theory, allows now you could write prompts for different angles of it and use the reference. You could ask the agent to generate options for you, or you can use a tool like this, which is kind of a hybrid of using the agent and the reference to generate options for you. Now we'll see if it actually loads. Of course, I maybe did not make an appropriate offering to the tech gods to get it to load. There it goes. Okay. So this is their tool. They have built it. So the functionality that is here is this. So I can select an image. So let's say we've got this image of the kitten walking across the room in the goldfish. And I can pick different views. So let's say I want a overhead view of this room. I don't know what happens if I hit another button. Let's see. Let's say we want to zoom in. Oh yeah. So it cues in, creates an order. And let's do surprise me. And it allows me to choose which model I'm working with. All right. So there's different options there that are loading. We'll let those load and we'll open another tool while we're at it. So that's the shot explorer. You can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Converge is really interesting. Right. There's a lot of this idea of moving from sketch to concept into actual idea. The type overlays, I'll open it. I'm not going to run it. I got so mad at this earlier. So it's the idea of you can take a video. So let's say, and I can show you a preview of it. So let's say we take I want videos. We have our goldfish in the bowl, right? So I can take that and then I can put a title on it, right? The goldfish and the cat. And it'll make it appear. So it shows me a preview of it. I can adjust the timing. I can adjust the font. Right. I can make it bigger. I can, all these things. I rendered one of these out earlier. After 25 minutes, it was not done. Because what I think it is doing is it is going frame by frame and re-rendering out each frame with the text on it. It is the least effective or efficient way to do this. I would rather pull it into Canva and do it there or an editing tool. So this one is not there yet, but you can see where it is meeting a need of how do I put text into the video because AI tools are notoriously unreliable right now for doing that. Um, so good idea, bad execution. Let's see how we're doing over here in our images. All right, so remember we said top-down view. So here's our top-down view of the cat approaching the fishbowl. Could be a really interesting opening angle of this. It's really weird. I like how it's a very nice living room. Then we've got close in on the cat and the goldfish. The texture and style doesn't quite match, but it's pretty close and we could fix that. And then we have a surprise me shot where there's apparently a spider on the leaf. Oh, not. So really interesting tool. We will come back to this one to play with it because I think there's a lot of other things that we may want as creators when we start thinking about this tool. So let's check out another tool. So we've done the Shot Explorer. I've showed you why not to use the type overlays. There's a bunch of stuff in here. You can sketch on top of a video. Video resizer is another really interesting one. So the biggest use case of this is going to be you want to go from 16 by 9 to 9 by 16, right? That's the use case we always run into. So let's say we'll pick this one. So there's an option that just gives you a 16 by 9, and so you have a lot of black space. Or you can have this fill option. Here's the problem. It doesn't have really a notion of like smart following. Right. So right now we end up with this like empty chunk in the middle, and we would rather have it trace, right? Follow the cat probably. So I'm going to use this as an example to start to show you the remix option. If you see this button up here, remix. This is where we get into the vibe coding of things. So if I hit remix, it's now made a copy of this. So you can see it says remix of video resizer. So here's the current version of it. And now here's our chat window for being able to code what we want it to do. Now, did I save out? I might have saved out a way to do this prompt. Yes, I did. Okay. Rather than put it out. So for vibe coding, the promise is that you can describe what you want. The challenge is then it's only going to be as good as your description. And especially you have to start to learn how to explain things in a way that engineers are going to understand. Or essentially think of this as sort of a junior engineer who's going to go execute on your idea. So you can definitely be like, hey, I can't, you're not following the cat. I need it to be better at recognizing characters. Or you can start to tune the language. This is where going back to a Claude or a Gemini to ask for it to help refine your prompt could be really useful. Or you give it a go and you see what happens. I'm going to tweak this slightly just based on a run of this earlier where when I said face, it assumed human face. And I'm going to just say the character. So this says add a smart reframe option to ensure that when the video is reframed, the character is always in view. When going from 16 by 9 to 9 by 16, don't just stick to the center of the video, but smartly follow the character. So I actually gave it the same instruction twice. We'll see what it does. So then you hit that, and it's now going to work and see. So it's telling us what it's working on. And so we're going to let it do its thing for a few moments, and we'll go look at another tool while it's doing this. Doing okay with my jumping around? We're following okay? All right. It's weird, right? Doing these demos. This is where I appreciate a good YouTube edit of like just jumping forward. I'm like, oh, this is why we just like sometimes fast forward through things. So a bunch of other ones. There's style writers in here. What's really fun is like starting to just play with it. So I tried making one the other day where I wanted it to, they have tools now with these characters where you can assign a voice. And I wanted it to start to say specific lines in that voice. Then I wanted it to deliver in a specific way. And I hit some limitations where you can't actually upload, files into this. So one of the important things to understand when you're working in this, if you're working in a vibe coding environment, like on your desktop, you have access, if you give it access to everything that's there, you have storage, you have all of those things. If you're in Gemini, you can give it access to Google Docs. When you're right now in Flow, you are in a contained space that does not have access to your desktop, to your drive folders, those things. Now, sometimes you can upload like very specific files, like image files, but you're in a much more constrained environment. So I've had times where I'm working with it and it'll say, I created a storyboard for you to review, and it tells me where to download it, but there's nowhere to go to get it. I've had it, say like, oh yeah, I saved out this file for you, but it has actually, in this context, no ability to save things out for you. So it's important to understand that, because you can start to get into creating things like when I was creating the voiceover files, because normally with a lot of vibe coding tools, I can be like, here's the voiceover file, and it's like, great, thanks for the MP3. And in this case, it does not work. So I built a tool, I tried to build a tool, and it just failed miserably. That will get better. But know as you're experimenting with things, it's like you may just hit things that it just can't do yet, which is kind of fun when you find those boundaries and you're like, woo, I pushed it to its edge. One of the other things that I love most, actually, before we jump into that, let's just see. Oh, good. Okay. We'll finish up with our video resizer and then we'll start talking about storyboards, because I love storyboards so much. Oh, look, it did not make the change. I hit a might violate our policies. So interesting. I have no idea why that would violate policies. So, good old AI, when in doubt, let's just try the exact same prompt again and see if that breaks it. Otherwise, we will try to change. And it's so funny because that prompt worked before. This is what it's so fascinating. Okay. So we will start talking about storyboards. Storyboards are a standard tool for any sort of visual storytelling. It keeps you organized. It helps you see the arc of things. It helps you work with pacing, all of those things. So you can see we were already starting to build it with the agent. In this case, what I really wanted when I started working with these tools is the ability to give a script or an idea and to have it build out an asset list, to build out the storyboards, and to build out the animations. The storyboards being the starting frames. So super excited when I saw they have the Storyboard Studio tool. Because what this tool, the promise of this tool, if it loads, which again, I'm going to take a sip of coffee again. Coffee break, if you haven't. I'm going to reload this again. I'm glad you all are tech folks. You understand the pain of this. Okay, so this is their version of the storyboard writer. You can pick the style. Let's try claymation, right? And you say get started, and it says write your script or prompt story ideas below. Let's try, for kicks and giggles, let's give it what we told it, the agent before. Where's my, there it is. So I'm going to paste this in here. This is like a chat box. So I'm pasting the same thing as before. So you can see this has 3 stages, assets, and then storyboard. It does not have animation. Oh, wow. This just gave us a very perfect. I love the editorializing it provides. The short film relies entirely on lighting and the physics of the water to convey the emotional weight of the connection. Cool. All right. We've got a script. I am going to do the irresponsible thing and just assume it's fine, because AI totally is fine on the first pass, isn't it? Now, what it has done is it's already auto-filled the characters, right? And so it's identified. Now, what it hasn't done is written the descriptions. So if I click this autofill character button, let's see what it does. And we'll go ahead and we'll do autofill locations and autofill props as well. Okay, so it just filled in this. Did it actually generate? And it's generating the image. So what this did, behind the scenes, it has code that it's reading the script, it's pulling out the descriptions, and then it is creating the prompt and generating the reference. Oh, right. I was like, what's wrong with that cat? And I just realized we picked claymation as the style. So there's our reference image for our cat. This is going to be a really weird one. Here's our goldfish. I'm very curious how a tail flows in claymation. That'll be fun to see what it does with it. And it's going to give us our location. We've got our props. That fish is going to be very big for that fish bowl. So you lose some of the like reference size of things. All right, well, that finishes. Do, do, do. There's our mahogany table. Now, in theory, and our location. It's a very smart, goldfish gets its own room with a grandfather clock. Great. Love it. Storyboard. So now, same thing. If I click on these, you see we're missing all of this information, but it has figured out that these are the shots that should be there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do autofill scene, see what happens that we get here. Yeah. So see how we have the frame description that it filled in and it pulled the reference assets that we need. So we're going to let this bake because it's going to go through and it's going to generate those. So you start to see where now you've got the review stages. And if you put in a good script at the beginning and you look at the assets and you start to have clean writing of these things, you can start to see where it's going to flow through to be a much smoother production process. Still not like one prompt, boom. You could change this to be like, just go, here's the thing, and let it crank stuff out for you. I think we've seen enough to know the poor goldfish does not fit in that bowl. Oh, I love this. This is so funny to me. Um, the hunter approaches the rising bubble. I was realizing with the cat approaching and the rising bubble, that could totally imply that the fish died, and it's just the like remnants of it. So at least we have the happy ending of the two of them together. So we have our, oh, but our fish is missing. All right, this is gonna be a really good example. Fish has totally been eaten. Oh, so yeah, so we have some issues here. So this one, this is a great example, actually. So here's this one. Let's try this. Let's add the fish as a reference image. Fishbowl, the glass fishbowl with Ando the goldfish swimming in it. Create image. So we can edit the image by generating a new one. One of the things we may want to be able to do instead, actually, this is a great example, is for this one, so we have our giant fish. I can't just say make the fish smaller, right? That would be the ideal, is that I'm like fine with the composition of it in this case. It's, I don't know, we could argue that one, but I want to just edit it, which I have the ability to do. But if I jump out to the folder, I will lose all of my work in this. So remember what I said about like you don't have as much of the save states. So I would lose everything. So I want to be able to do as many things as possible in this. So there it fixed it. The cat looks so weird. So there's two edits I would like to make to this. So I would hit remix tool. We're going to lose our claymation cat right now. And I want this to, so in storyboards, please add an option where I can provide notes to edit the existing image rather than regenerating it. So that's one. Now, normally I would say you only do one change at a time. This is like standard code thing. You change one thing at a time because bugs can happen, and then you don't know where the bug happened, and you want to get one feature working well before you move on to the next one. But hey, let's live dangerously, and let's also ask it to add a new tab with animation capability. Using the storyboards and this script, create prompts. I should be able to submit each animation individually as well as submit all for batch processing. Okay. We're going to let that bake and see what it does. Now, let's go look at some of our other stuff. Whoops. We have, see, it worked this time. So remember we got the error. This time it worked. So what it has now in theory done, to remind you of what we were doing on this one, is we wanted it to do a dynamic reframing to follow the character. So if I select, was this one that we used? Yeah. And now I say smart character follow, and I want it to fill. It's analyzing the character right now. All right, smart reframe tracking complete. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, yeah. And now I can do export video. Yes, this is my stuff. That right stuff is popping up more and more, which makes me wonder what's happening behind the scenes. So that has now, it should have saved it out to the gallery. So let's go back here. No, it failed. uh, export. Let's try one more time. I agree. The save to gallery feature failed. So, all right, let me just check. Yep. Oh, wait. Nope. That's not what we wanted. Okay. So see, it's not perfect. But is an interesting one. All right, and let's go back over here. So this is, all right, this is classic. Here's our new tool. I'm just going to refresh so you can really see. If you remember the other one, and let me open it so we can compare side by side. Where did you go? Storyboard Studio. The other one opened with this. This one now opens with this. There was no reason for it to make that change to these other screens. And this is like going to the doctor because you sprained your ankle and your doctor's like, oh, and I'm going to give you a strep throat test. Right. So vibe coding will sometimes helpfully decide it's going to change other things for no reason. This is again why I like saving out versions of things, because then you can go back to your previous version, save out a new one, try again to keep it constrained. I have tried telling it, don't do anything else, don't do this, and it still does what it wants to do. So just know vibe coding is not perfect, but it has added our animation option. So let's try again. Let me grab the prompt for the cat one. So, and this is the unfortunate is like now I have to start over with the whole script of things. I have built some tools where you can kind of keep some continuity, but I've not very successfully. So instead I have some tools that I use regularly now for storyboarding, but I found I have to keep it very tight and very constrained, and I have to be willing to just start all over or like, click and upload each one. All right, so we've got that. So our script is good to go. We now are going to go to assets. See, and it lost all the asset. It lost the button to like automatically detect. And it built a save story thing, which I don't think was there before. So it really went off on its own. But never fear, I was prepared that this might happen. So it's like going back to our video resizer. It now has an error going on. These tools are imperfect, but let me show you. All right. So, and under my tools, you can now start to see I built I played with this a lot. Um, I asked it to make, let's see, it should be this one. I gave it a full list of features. Yeah, open the other one too, just to see what we got here. All right. So for these ones, I gave it a full feature list. So the instructions were basically, here's the instructions. I want to provide a prompt like the following and have the tool translated into various stages of assets, storyboard, animation. I want to be able to do auto-generate each category, press a button to generate all of the assets. So I'm giving it the requirements, press a button to generate all of the animations. I need to be able to download all the animations. I need to be able to see and edit the generation prompts. And I want to be able to provide feedback on a specific image or video and have it edited, not just regenerated. And then here's the sample prompt. So this is very natural language, but it's a list of features. And this is what it, so if I put in our cat example, it's going to build this. So while it's doing that, just to show you one, oh, so it's done already with the assets. So I'm going to tell it to generate all assets, and it's going to go and do that. One other tool. So you remember we had this angle tool that we were playing with. I wanted to create my own one from scratch. So I gave it a set of requirements that are kind of more product management written to have it create a new version. So rather than remixing and starting from the previous Shot Explorer, I wanted it to create its own one. So you can see over here, and like I said, I will give you a document that has a lot of these prompts in it so you can dig into them more if you would like. But it has different categories. So gallery integration, a select image workflow. You don't need all of this, like the SDK stuff and everything, but it's helpful and you can run it through Gemini or Claude to have it help fill this out. Source preview. So I want to be able to see what I've selected. Exploration, session reset. I need it to have perspective, pan, zoom, right? So I gave it all of these definitions, and this is the tool that it gave me. So again, I can select the image. Where's this one, the kitten walking across. And then I can have it make multiples at once. It can do bird's eye, it can do side. So it's got the same settings because it was based on that same thing. But it's a little bit more kind of my language and what I started to want. So going back to our production suite, now we've got our goldfish, we've got our cat, right? So this is the character and the assets. We've got our goldfish bowl, and we've got our room, which means we can go to storyboards and we can generate these. So that's generating. Let me go back to see you all and look at your questions and thoughts because we're closing in on the end here. So rough estimate of how much it would cost, either credits or dollars, to make 2 to 3 minute videos. Yeah. So there's different ways to back this out. If you look at like API costs, like if you use a direct API call, these can cost anywhere from 50 cents to $2 or $3 per generation of 8 to 10 seconds. So that's why, like, using some of these tools to generate these one prompt ones, that's how you get up into the $80 range very quickly because you're just like sending the stuff. The benefit of having like a Google subscription means you get bulk discounts on this. So you would need to back out basically for, whatever account you have. If you pay $20 a month and it gives you 2,000 credits and you're using an average of 20 credits per generation, that's going to allow you to back out. It's going to be far cheaper than, $1 each. That said, it's not free. right? And this goes back to the responsibility and making sure that you're being thoughtful about this. But it's also why I really encourage people, when possible, to start working at the Google Flow level or with Kling's tools and not using these aggregators. Because if you're using InVideo or Steve AI or some of these other ones, you are paying for their infrastructure and API call costs on top of that. And so that's where it gets very expensive very fast versus this is a more, still not cheap, but it's a more economical way of doing the development. All right, let's see what we got over here. So we've got our storyboards, we've got the cat walking across. This bubble, this bubble scene is a problem, but we're gonna leave it be for now. And then we've got the gaze. So we can go to animation and we can generate all the animations. For some reason, this is throwing an error, still throwing an error. So we would have to dig in to find out what's going on there. But let's see what it makes for these other ones. Um, it's just like coding. You spend a lot of time troubleshooting and working through bugs. But the more you get to the product language, the more you can get to a tool that you can actually use for yourself. So the workflow I have now, yeah, so Dylan, to that, the workflow I have now that I'm using to actually produce videos is that I will brainstorm and work through a rough script myself of what I want it to be. I will then work with usually Claude, sometimes Gemini, to develop it into a full storyboard. So that will have the script, it'll have the prompts, the starting image prompts, the video prompts, and any voiceover. And it's into a storyboard format that is in a markdown file that is a specific format that I have found works for me, that I then upload into a custom Google Flow tool that works similarly though to what I'm showing you of it takes the script, it pulls out the characters, it pulls out the storyboards, it does the animations, and I go through all of that. And in that tool, I generate everything that I need and I edit where I need to. And then I have a bulk download of those things, and it downloads where it's actually named shot one, shot two kind of thing. And then I pull that into another tool that is, I've coded with Claude that uses Remotion, which is a code-based video editing tool to then build out the videos to execute. And so with that, now I can do a 3 to 5 minute episode in about an hour and a half when I have established content and characters and everything. Longer if I'm developing things. But that is what my custom pipeline has evolved into, using Google Flow in the middle for the tooling. But it took a while to get the tooling. And by a while, I mean, it took me like 6 days of on and off usage to get the tooling into the place where I wanted it. And I still continue to tweak it as I find things. But that's the flow that I'm using now. Just to look at this. So we've got our cat, got our bubble. I really like that. It's very pretty. We just are missing the fish. And then we've got the cat and the fish. So you can start to see with sort of the tooling actually properly vetted, not built in like 12 minutes, how you can now, instead of having to do the prompt by prompt or even having to work with that agent, you can actually get to a pretty good flow of things. Oh, I just realized we need to watch the world premiere of our agent-based cat video. Let me find where it went. That's the, where are you? Okay, this is going to take me a second. Agent. Here it is. Okay, ready? Flash tonight. So, like I said, it's limited to only 10 seconds. But did it hit all the beats? Yes, there's a goldfish, there's a cat. There's a cat looking at the goldfish. And then they have a happy sunset together, right? We can do a lot better with custom tools and everything. But hopefully that gives you a sense of things and a sense of like why to dig in and just start playing. I really think start with the tools that are there. So play with the Shot Explorer, play with the storyboard tool, And when you have suddenly the urge of like, oh, I want to do this, I wish it did this, open up the remix option and put it in. And don't worry about the product language and everything. Just try it and just give it a go. Generally, your accounts, if you have some version of a paid account, you're going to have plenty of space to play with the editing and the Gemini side of things. Those prompts are far cheaper when you're working in text, far cheaper than when you're working in video. So a really great place to experiment. Any questions, thoughts? Are your brains okay? Yeah, so I have two main workflows that I use. Yeah, do not try to edit in Google Flow. It's awful. Um, Sorry, Google. I'd say it to him. Um, the so when I'm doing heavy editing or fine editing or really like need control, I use DaVinci Resolve. The free version is super beefy. I was using it for 6 months before I finally started hitting some limitations that I did the paid version. I adore them. I love them. I think they're great. If when I can, I really do like working with code-based editing though, where Remotion is a really great SDK for being able to do like I've done things where I literally am sitting there with Claude and I've got Remotion running in a folder and I'm like, build this alphabet video and it builds it and then I'm like flip out the orange clip or shorten this and I can like tell it and it's natural language editing. It's not perfect, it takes time. And so what I have, especially when I'm using this flow, is I download the videos and I build it in Claude builds essentially like a YAML file if you know kind of the code side of things, but it builds a metadata file and then pulls in the videos and then I have an interface, an HTML interface that I can tweak the lengths and add some transitions and add some text if I need to. So I've essentially built a web-based editor that fits exactly the use case that I need. And that's why like Promotion's got all of these tools in it. The other one people have started using, and I have not had as much success with it yet, is Hyperframes, which is from the HeyGen folks. And so that one is another option, but it usually requires a couple of other pieces around it to make the full editing flow work. There's a couple of different credits at play, and all of it is fundamentally the same system for Google, but they are differentiated. So when you are working with Gemini doing conversation text-based prompts and like editing, that is much more pulling from the larger Gemini pool of tokens. So if you look in your subscription, it'll kind of talk about what your limits are there. When you're generating video and flow, that is using, and you will see that counter in the upper corner start to go down as you're generating. That is all shifting as well. Like they're starting to move more towards a usage-based pattern, but it's not there yet. So it's good to be aware, but basically know if you're playing with the tools and you're remixing it, unless you're hitting that button to generate images and videos. So you're testing it, that's going to use credits. My nightmare of math exams where it's like, you have 5 hours left on your Gemini plan and 2,000 credits. How many videos can you generate, of a cat? It's just like, so.